Are you tired of your drums sounding like this? And you want them to sound a little bit more like this? In this video, I'll be showing you guys what I do and the resources that I use to make some decent drum patterns. Before we play any drums, it's important that you guys have a good way of acquiring the drums. So you have sound packs, you have Splice, you have the internet for drum breaks. And lately, the main thing that I've been using is Splice. So let me show you guys the process that I go through whenever I'm looking for drums. So basically, you have Splice right here and you have your sounds. Whenever I'm looking for a drum or looking for drums that go together, it's simple. I just type in the type of drum that I want, click search, and they have a bunch of drums right here. But I don't just use any drum, so I like to use the filters up here, and I use live sounds. After that, I search the drums, look for one that sounds good, and download it. So go something like this. Just listening for something that sounds like what I'm looking for. So basically, once I get the drum, I download it and I drop it into Ableton or Serato. So after you do all that, you have your drums right here, and this is how the drums sound that I'm using. So if you notice, all those drums have somewhat of a realistic sound, and that's because that's just kind of the sound that I'm going for with this beat. So it's really important to make sure that the drums you use match, or that they at least sound good together. So let's get into the pattern. Usually all I do is I start off real simple: the hi-hats, the kick, and the snare. So I already know that I want the kick to hit on the 1, so I'll place it right there. Bam. Then I also want the snare on the 2 and the 4. And it's going to sound a little boring, but this is how it sounds. Nothing crazy, but that's a part of the process. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the hi-hats. And again, it's not going to be anything crazy. It's going to be a simple pattern. So no quantize. And this is how it sounds. So after that, I know that I don't really want this hi-hat pattern. I already have an idea of how the drums are going to sound, and all I have to do is put that idea onto the computer. So I want the hi-hats to have 4 hi-hats within a quarter of a bar, and it sounds something like this. So we'll just rock with that, and we can just delete these now because I know what I want the hi-hats to sound like. So now we're going to work on these hi-hats. We don't want these hi-hats to sound robotic, because that's basically how they're going to sound with the quantize on. So what I'm going to do, move around a few of them just like that. None of them have to be perfect, but as long as you move them around, you can select them all and move them as well. And then you also want to change the velocity. So just like I said, I want this drum pattern to sound like a real drum player is playing it. I'm going to change the velocity up a little bit, because no drummer plays the same note exactly at the same velocity. So this is how the hi-hats sound after I just manipulate them a little bit. Perfect. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all of them and just duplicate it. Just like that. Now this is how the hi-hats sound. Cool. So now we're just gonna play around with them and just move some over, just to give it more of a imperfect human feel. And like I said, this is just the beginning. So if it sounds bad, don't get stressed out right now. We're also going to change the velocity. One thing I like to do is every quarter of the bar, the hi-hat is a little bit louder. Cool. So now we have the hi-hats. We have a rough idea of how the hi-hats are going to be. Now we're going to go over to the kick drum, and we're going to place one right there because I already know that's how it sounds. That's where it needs to be for me to achieve the sound I'm looking for. And now I'm just going to add a few more kick drums, and I'll show you guys what I got. All right, so that's a rough idea of the pattern that I want. So now I'm going to just add maybe a few notes and show you guys another cool little tip that I do, or trick, and that is going to be adding ghost notes and stacking the drums. So first, let's go ahead and add like a ghost note right here, lower the velocity, and same thing with the hi-hats. The drummer is not going to play the kick at the same velocity every time. Sometimes it's going to be harder, sometimes it's going to be softer. So we're just going to play around with the kick and change them around. We can make this ghost note a little bit quieter, and we can make this one a little quieter, and this one. Cool. Now we're going to copy and paste, drag it down to the other kick drum that I have, and basically this just changes up the sound a little bit more. The original kick drum doesn't have as much bass as this kick drum, and then together this is how they sound. I'm also going to take some of the notes out from the other kick drum, from the stacked one, and just to change it up a little bit. Cool. Now we're going to play around with the snare, add a few extra snares, probably get a snare roll at the end, and let's see, just throw that right there. Cool. So we have the snare drums sounding right. Let's just lower the velocity a little bit on them, and with this snare roll we're going to lower the velocity as well, because a snare roll isn't always, all the snares hitting at the hardest point. They kind of build into it. Cool. Now we're going to go ahead and get a open hi-hat, and with this hi-hat I have it gated. So basically I activate the gate on here, and if I hold the key it plays the whole hi-hat, and if I just tap it it's just going to play a little snippet. So basically however long I hold it is how long it's going to be played for, and that's a pretty cool feature because you want to be able to have control over how long the open hi-hat is, so it can turn off once the snare hits. And let me show you an example of that. Compared to if it was playing all the way through, doesn't sound as good. And you can change it up. You could play it back here, drag it to the snare. Whatever you want, but right now I like how it sounds right there. We're gonna lower it up a little bit, and we're also going to get a ride. So let's go ahead and put a ride where that snare plays. We're also going to mimic a real life drum player. When somebody's playing the drums, they can play a closed hi-hat, an open hi-hat, a cymbal, and a snare roll, all at the same time. So what we're going to do, take out some of these hi-hats. So right here, if a drummer is playing an open hi-hat, he can't play a closed hi-hat at the same time. So whenever this is activated, I'm going to take those closed hi-hats out and just let that open hi-hat play out. And right here, he's playing a drum roll. Usually when drummers play a drum roll, they're using both the sticks, so we can't be having both of the sounds playing together. Cool. All right, so we're gonna run with that, and we're also gonna, you know, lengthen up this pattern. It's sounding a little bit repetitive, and you don't want your drums to get boring and repetitive. So we're just gonna duplicate this, make it about 4 bars. Usually 2 to 4 bars is enough. So now all we're gonna do is just change a few things up, you know. So like right here, we don't need the hi-hat playing right there. We could just have a cymbal, and they got a hi-hat right there. Let's fill in the gap. So we'll just take these and plug them in right here. Perfect. And same thing, let's put those right there as well. And let's change up this last cymbal ride to that one. And let's see how these drums sound now. Cool, so I'm feeling it. And yeah, I mean, that's the drum pattern right there. It's real simple. You just have to take your time and make sure that you have a variety of drums, because the more drums you have, the more options you have for, you know, different patterns and adding different sounds and all that stuff like that. Another thing that I want to show you guys is panning your drums to different sides. So right here, I have one ride cymbal pan to the right, the other one is pan to the left. I got the open hi-hat pan to the left as well. The snare is a little bit to the left, and this just kind of adds space within your drum, so you know everything's not going through one box. And even in real life, you know, when you have a drum set, you might have the open hi-hat on the left side, you got some cymbals on the right, in the middle, on the left, snare drums on the left side. So just kind of trying to mimic that that feel or whatnot. I know it's not very you don't really hear it too much in person, but I just want to give my drums a little bit more space. So after tinkering with the drums and everything, changing up the low levels, just making sure some sounds aren't too loud, this is what I got. So yeah, I mean, I'm feeling it. And then once you add the chords, you basically got the beat going. I also want to show you guys how I manipulate drums when I'm sequencing the beat. So sometimes you might want to add a specific kick drum roll or change things up a little bit, and I'm gonna just show you guys my thought process when I do that. So let's check it out. All right, so I have the sequenced beat right here, and now I'm going to show you guys basically how I get like those drum rolls in with the kick drums and stuff. So basically, I choose a section that I want to have it at, and I just isolate that section by highlighting it and pressing Command E, and basically that just cuts it out so that the other drums won't get affected, just this one right here. So I go ahead and highlight it, and I go towards the end of it. And let's see, I want it to be somewhere like around here. So I'll just give it a listen and see what's the right place to put it. So let's check it out. Somewhere right there. So let's see. right, so that sounds cool. It's not perfect, but you know, then again, I do have this plugin that's affecting the latency of the beat. So as you can see, I had to kind of isolate the kick drums just so you can hear it. The other sounds were kind of affecting it, but you know, I just figured since I had a mute out right here, would have been a perfect spot to add a nice little kick drum roll, just to add, you know, be a nice introduction to the bass line. So let's see if we can do another one. So I have an idea. I'm gonna have the snare drums playing repeatedly, like around here. So as you can see, highlighted that and press Command E just to isolate it. And let's see if I can achieve that sound. And just take note, like I already have this stuff planned out in my head. It's just you have to figure out how to execute it. Sometimes, you know, it's easy, sometimes it's hard, but just gotta have patience. So that sounds cool. We're also going to steal that drum roll from earlier and put it at the end as well. So let's see if we can make this sound cool. There it goes. So let me go ahead and change these as well, since I know where the kick drums need to be. Let's see. Perfect. That's cool. So if I wanted, I can also add another mute out right here just to isolate the drums, just to add a little bit more meaning to that change up. So let's see if I can do it. Right where the snare hits. And there you go. That's how I do it. That's how I find drums, how I program them, how I make change ups and do different little rows. And yeah, hopefully you guys learned something new with this video. Up next, I'll probably do another chord tutorial or maybe even a bass line tutorial. Just let me know what you guys want and I'll try my best to deliver. But with all that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Peace out. Bust around from the place, sure indeed. That's I can't that's word I need. I'm about to give you what you need.